Grief. One could say it's ineffable.
Yes. Yes.
The only words that I could use to describe grief is intense and devastating. These are some of the things that can happen, or you can feel with grief. Stephen Levine, the author of Who Dies, which is an investigation of conscious living and conscious dying, describes it as being dropped into the pit of despair and longing. Melody Beattie, who wrote the book Codependence No More, lost her 12-year-old son to a skiing accident. It took her 8 years to get back to writing. One of the books she wrote afterwards is called The Grief Club, where she talks about different changes we go through our life, and she gives you suggestions on how to get through them. This particular club she calls the "You Are Not Supposed to Go Away." And my heart is broken. I contend another one, which is, I wasn't ready for you to go away. And my heart is broken. Some of the factors that can play into the grief that we feel is actually the death itself. Was it sudden?
Hello.
Was it violent? Did you witness that? Was there trauma? Or was it a very long illness and your loved one just slipped away? You were able to say goodbye. How about the relationship you had with that person? Was there conflict? Or was it harmonious? In my life, with my parents, my relationship with my mother was conflictual.
Good word.
And I know that it was difficult when she died. I was actually relieved because she had been very sick. But it took me a while to actually get to the point where I could have empathy for her and her life and the reason that she was the way she was. My father was different. We got along really well, and I took care of him all that time. Had to put him in a nursing home, unfortunately. But when he left, again, there was relief because he was suffering. So we think of grief as this big, hairy monster. It's our enemy. We want to get away. And some of the ways people deal with that is drinking, drugs. And those things don't do any good. They just kind of cover it over. It's still there spewing underneath all that grief. And it can come out in anger and frustration. And being mean to other people and not really realizing why you're feeling that way. I remember after my mother died, I was working in a hospital with one of the case managers, which was a nurse. And she said something to me. She was really putting pressure on me to get this person out of the hospital. And I turned to her and I just yelled at her. I said, "You don't understand. My mother just died, and I'm having a hard time dealing with it." And so she backed off. So I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
Other things that can determine our
Waiting for the catch-up.
I love it.
other things in that relationship can be, what about the expectations for the future? The things that you were going to do with this person that now you can't do. Are there any regrets? Things left unsaid or undone? So all of these play into our grief and loss. And again, like I said, it becomes a monster. And instead of running and hiding or trying to keep busy, busy's a good one. I hear that a lot. Oh, I'm just keeping busy so I don't have to deal with it. Well, at some point, you got to go to sleep at night. And you can't be busy all night long.
Yeah.
Or you hide. I don't want to see the world anymore. life is no good, this person's not here anymore. And instead of trying to get away from your monster, I suggest you just sit down with your monster. Get to know him better. Get to understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Because it's based mostly on your relationship with that person and the life that they lived and how they influenced you. A lot of times we don't realize that no matter what we do, we touch other people's lives. And Scott, as you were talking, being a Toastmaster is part of that. Telling a story, helping other people look at things maybe a little bit differently. So as you get to understand your grief a little bit more, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Until it's that cute little blue monster, you know, monsters. And you're friends with it. You understand it, you're okay, and you've come out on the other side to be a better person. So I leave you today with these stories. And if you or anybody you know is having a hard time dealing with grief, please get my card, and I'd be happy to help them. Thank you.